Welcome back to Window on Wall Street, a program that shares information about delayed food sensitivities. Sensitivities that may cause symptoms like migraine headaches, chronic fatigue, stress, digestive issues such as IBS, and even ADD, ADHD, just to mention a few. I'm Lauren Koenig, your host, and in today's program, we'll be taking questions from patients who have invested in an immunobloodprint, a simple blood test that identifies foods which could be the cause of many symptoms. My guest today is Jeffrey Zavik, author of the very popular book, Toxic Food Syndrome, and the founder of Immunolaboratories, the world's most respected source for accurate delayed food allergy test results. Welcome, Jeffrey.
My pleasure.
Now let's take a call.
Hi, this is John from Boston, and I am the CEO of a growing company, and I've been hearing a lot of talk about this metabolic syndrome. Now, my board is concerned about the rising healthcare costs in our company. Can you enlighten me what the heck this thing is and how it's hurting our bottom line?
The metabolic syndrome is quite a mouthful, but it's really becoming, in the literature, in the media and in the scientific literature, a big deal. And the reason it's becoming a big deal, it's affecting over 50 million Americans. And that's adult Americans. That's a very large number and a growing number. And the exciting thing about metabolic syndrome is it's an early indicator, early warning of both cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and other very concerning diseases. So by catching this metabolic syndrome early, we can actually help people avoid the more costly things to a corporation, which is when people get into the cost of cardiovascular disease and diabetes. Now, there are 5 common risk factors associated with metabolic syndrome, and if you have any 3 of the 5, that would suggest then that you have this syndrome to deal with. One of them is fat around the abdomen. We all know about that. We're all battling that, but there's a certain level at which when there's too much fat around the abdomen, that's one of the risk factors. Second thing is high blood pressure, another very common problem. High blood sugar, which is another very common issue. High triglycerides, and a measure of a low level of the good cholesterol in the blood. So any of those 5 particular things, 3 of those 5, and you have what is now being called metabolic syndrome, a very expensive and costly thing. Now here's the good news. The good news is it can be treated and it can be dealt with in rather simple ways, even through a corporate wellness program.
So I have 3 of the 5 symptoms. What do I do?
Very good. First of all, you want to do what you can to bring the weight down. So that's losing the belly fat, which oftentimes is going to be in the form of some type of regular exercise. And of course, then it becomes a matter of what they say is eating a healthy life, eating a healthy diet. Well, what is a healthy diet? That's where this blood print comes in. Immunolaboratories can perform a test that will actually pinpoint the foods that are best for your system. So you're really not that difficult to make an impact on getting yourself out of this 50 million people of metabolic syndrome, and at the same time warding off things like cardiovascular disease and diabetes, things you never want to have happen.
So what we consider healthy foods nowadays, we should just scratch that, start over, once we get our blood print and see what's healthy for us.
Exactly. One person's food is in fact another person's poison.
Jeffrey, now tell me, with healthcare today, how does metabolic syndrome fit in with the whole scheme of things?
Well, corporate America is struggling with the cost of healthcare. It is really a very big problem. It's killing the profits of companies. And yet, companies are dedicated to helping their staff, their people, their employees be healthy. The metabolic syndrome is a relatively simple way to diagnose with these simple tests, blood sugar tests, and so forth, and then impact by finding out early on whether or not the employees have such conditions. Much less expensive for a company to deal proactively with metabolic syndrome than it's going to be to have patients that employees that have major cardiovascular conditions, diabetes, and other type of more devastating diseases. Now, in addition to that, we have a growing number of people that are what they call falling in the presenteeism, meaning they're not absent from work, which in and of itself is very costly. Now we have a bigger expense to corporations of people who are present at work but foggy brain, inactive, energy levels that are low, and in general performing far less than their optimal level. So they're there, but they're not really there. And that's becoming a very costly. In fact, any number that I would throw out to you on that of the billions of dollars that it's costing corporate America would be outdated in a matter of months because it's escalating.
Now, is it possible for someone that does not have health insurance provided by a major corporation or a job, since the unemployment rate is very high, but they're still interested in a blood print? Can you do that on your own?
Well, you can, and over 14 million people actually are covered in major network policies. So there's a very, very large number of people that are covered without even a copay.
Now, Jeffrey, tell me, there's so many people out there that are uninsured, and we know today that health is being proactive and being preventative. So what can you suggest for those that may never get insurance?
Oftentimes the word insurance is really misunderstood because it's not really about keeping people healthy. It has more to do with treating people after they've become sick. So people say, does my insurance cover this? Does my insurance cover that? I think a better insurance policy to a great extent is having an immunoblood done from the standpoint then you stop eating the foods that are causing a toxic reaction that are contributing to metabolic syndrome, diabetes, high cholesterol, all these different things. So a small investment in a test that helps you take responsibility for your own health may be as powerful or more powerful than many of these insurance companies that aren't even providing coverage. I don't know about you, but oftentimes when I look and see, they go, well, it doesn't cover it. Well, it doesn't cover it. It doesn't cover it. It's like, what does it cover? Well, catastrophic things. That's great, but I don't want to end up in a catastrophic thing. I want to stay well. You want to stay well before any of those things ever occur. The blood print will help you do that.
And that's the first thing that, when I talk about immunolaboratories and the blood print, people are always asking me, does my insurance cover it? I'm like, well, be proactive. It's about preventative health.
Exactly. If your only choices are made based on what your insurance covers, you're now in basically a disease mindset, a disease model, because insurance basically covers the treatment of certain diseases.
Jeffrey, thank you so much. Now we've got Dr. Mikkel Parsons standing by with some alternative food ideas. Dr. Parsons, any thoughts for our caller?
Jeffrey, I certainly agree with you. Thank goodness we do not have to be fully dependent upon what the health insurance companies feel that we need, because they truly are in a disease care state of mind and not a wellness. So for those of you who are on that road to either developing metabolic syndrome, maybe you already have it, or you are maybe even a diabetic, there are a few things that I want to share with you that are going to give you back control of your own physiology. First, be aware that beans are a complex carbohydrate. We often say that beans are a great source of protein, but they also have carbohydrate in them. So for any of my patients that fall into this category, we are pulling those out of the diet because they do convert to sugar. Number two are fruits. Fruit is healthy, but not if you're having a blood sugar or insulin problem, especially things higher in sugar, such as bananas, which everyone loves and they're fun to eat and they're convenient. But those higher levels of sugar actually kind of simmer the pot of that inflammation, and it's inflammation that puts us on the road to disease. So be very careful. You're better off, if you're going to have a fruit, to make it more in the berry family. There's more antioxidants, there's less sugar, and they're yummy. So when you're looking at fruits, you don't want the really high sugar ones. And I often tell my patients, raisins are just a dehydrated grape, which is all sugar. So keep in mind when you're making fruit choices, what's going to be the best for your physiology. The next section is grains. Grains have a lot of great benefit to us, but if we're dealing with healing the body from that blood sugar insulin spike, grains also get converted to sugar. So I also have patients eliminate those. This provides the body the opportunity to chill out, to reduce the inflammation. While we're doing that through our foods, we're adding in fish oils. It's the fish oils that helps with your triglycerides and your blood pressure. Side note for us girls, also great for the skin. So Fish oils are going to be an important part of this healing stage that your body needs to go through. So make sure that you're looking at the foods you're eating, you're making sure that you're not feeding the fires of inflammation, you're actually putting them out, and you're coming in with your fish oils to make sure that you're reducing your cardiovascular risk and helping with the triglycerides and blood pressure.
Thanks, Dr. Mikkel Parsons, and to you, Jeffrey Zavik. We'll continue with Window on Wall Street after the break, but may I encourage those of you watching who may have a family member, friend, or coworker experiencing similar health issues to forward the link to this video below to them. And if you haven't had your immunoblood print, please learn more and get yourself tested. Remember, there's a hidden link between what you eat and how you feel. I'm Lauren Koenig, and we'll be right back.